Rainy Thursday here. So, hopefully, if you are watching from somewhere other than this area, that it is a much better day for you wherever you are. Um, Today is Thursday, as I said, and we are going to look at nonfiction again today. I know that this um, earlier this week, we were looking at Earth Day things. So I actually am going to kind of touch on that a little bit again. I know I did that on Tuesday, which if I get out my poster that I made a while back on Author's Purpose, we can talk a little bit about the text that I was using. The one that I used on Tuesday was Almost Gone. And that would definitely fall into the inform, tell us facts about something. And if we wanted to focus on another author's purpose too, I would probably put it in persuade. Persuading, convincing us to do something, convincing us to act and take care of the environment that we live in so that the animals that we have stay with us. The one that I used yesterday was The Lorax by Dr. Seuss. And I would say the Lorax, probably you can make an argument for all three authors' purposes at that point. Definitely it is written in a fun, rhyming way with lots of color and fun fun characters in the Lorax and things like that, as Dr. Seuss always presented. So we can enjoy reading it, but also it informs us that we are the ones that are in charge of the environment and the world that we live in. And we need to be persuaded to do something about it, to take care of our earth and to take care of the world around us. So I would say that all three of those authors' purposes could be found in the Lorax, just for different areas. Today, I am going to use this nonfiction text. I have several books by the same author, Sally Morgan, and I think I used one about orangutans already. Well, this one is about eagles. And I think I mentioned on Tuesday that the bald eagle in the United States, even though it is our national animal symbol, a symbol of power and strength, which the eagle has been used as a symbol for strength for many, many years, thousands of years. If you are familiar with Greek mythology at all, the animal symbol of the god Zeus, the father god, the king god, if you will, his animal symbol was an eagle. It shows strength and power and beauty. And so that was, I probably would argue, one of the reasons that our founding fathers chose the eagle. It's found here in the United States, but it is also a symbol of strength, power, and beauty. And for quite a while, in the 1970s and even in the 80s and 90s when I was young, we were working very hard to rebuild the eagle population here in the United States of America. Luckily, we have managed to do that. So I learned recently, actually, from watching the Cincinnati Zoo virtual field trip earlier this week or late last week on the bald eagles that they have, which you are only able to keep bald eagles in captivity if they have been injured and are not able to go back in the wild. So they have 4 there, and all 4 of them are unable to live in the wild. I know the Louisville Zoo here, we have 2, I believe. Again, they are a pair. They are unable to go out into the wild to survive on their own. So they are no longer threatened or endangered because of how we have taken care of them and chose to make better choices with some pesticides that we are now using versus ones that were killing eagles when they were still in the eggs. So what we are going to talk about today using this text, again, I'm not going to read the whole book, don't have time for that, but we are going to look at about 5 or 6 pages here in this book to learn some new facts about eagles. I'm willing to bet that I'm going to learn some things too. We're going to look at text features again. And text features, including pictures and graphs and things like that, which are called graphic sources, which are very specific text features. We're going to talk about some specific ones where we can gather some more information on those. And at the top here, I drew a rainy cloud because it is raining here. And next to it, which this would be my graphic source text feature in illustration, next to it, I came up with a nonfiction caption: precipitation is a part of the water cycle. So I always said that we have, and I've said this so many times to you, we have to make sure that we are paying attention and reading all of our picture captions, because I like to say 90% of the time it gives us additional information that is not in our paragraph text. So we have to gather information, all the information that is given to us. So now what I'm going to have you do, I want you to get paper and a pencil, if you have it, please. And I am going to turn this. Oh, look, there's what we made yesterday. Our cute little flower pot. And look, it is completely glued. And it looks like a little pot of flowers. I can't wait to make these with my class in the future. Just a little idea I had. Okay. And I have other things that I have made with you all over here on my board too. I would like for you to get a piece of paper, and all you need is paper and a pencil. And I would like on that piece of paper, I want you to turn it, I'm going to use the back here. I'm not going to write on this, but I'm just showing you. I want you to turn it horizontally like this. And then we are going to pretend like this is a piece of paper. We are going to make an array on our paper. So I need to make 6 boxes. So by doing that, I'm going to put one horizontal line through the middle of my paper. Did I measure it? No. Is it perfect? No. But can I tell that it's kind of sort of in the middle by eyeballing it? Yeah. And then I'm going to put 2 vertical lines kind of evenly spaced. There's 1, there's 2. Same thing. It's not perfectly measured, but they're about equal, close enough. So now I have 2 sets of 3. I have a 2 by 3 array. 2 times 3 is 6. So I have my boxes that I need. Before I am going to read, I'm going to give you and teach you some important things that you may find in a nonfiction text that you have to make sure that you understand. Okay? These things are made in many nonfiction texts. So picture like your science book or your social studies book or something like that. Even some nonfiction books, such as this, have things to help you with vocabulary words. Besides just giving you a new vocabulary word that might be in boldface type, they might give it to you in a different location in the book also to teach you how to read and gather information in more than one place. Oh dear, I just swallowed the wrong way, huh? Okay, so the ones that we're going to focus on, and I'm going to write each of these terms at the front of my box or at the top of my boxes. I'm going to write down a caption. So you can call it a caption or a picture caption if you choose. I'm going to write down a vocab word. Give you an example of what a vocab word is, short for vocabulary word. I'm going to write down a subheading. And a subheading, another word for that is a subtitle. So if you choose to use the term subtitle instead of subheading, feel free to do that. And then I'm going to, it's kind of, there we go. And there was a glare right there on my board in front of subheading. Now I'm going to write down, let's see, glossary. Do I want to do glossary or do I want to do index? I'll do glossary. I'm going to do glossary and index. There are many options, and I'm just choosing out 6. Okay, so I'm going to do glossary, index, and then I'm going to do sidebar. Because a sidebar is not quite a picture caption. It's not quite a paragraph. It's kind of in between the two. So it's also maybe some people might call it a side note, but the technical term would be a sidebar. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to read, before I read my paragraphs in the book, I'm going to go through and I'm going to find examples of these things for you in this text by Sally Morgan, Eagles. So I see a caption. We know captions are found near pictures. Here is one right here next to these 2 majestic looking eagles. I definitely think that the word to describe bald eagles is majestic. A male bald eagle dives toward a female during a courtship display. Uh-oh. So you might say, a courtship display, what does that mean? Well, if you are courting as humans, it's a fancy word for dating. So he's coming over to the female saying, hey, won't you come be my girlfriend? I think you're beautiful. Don't you think I am too? So that's what is going on here. She's saying, hey, maybe she wants to be his girlfriend. Maybe she doesn't. But he's saying, I'm interested. So for a caption, I'm going to write down the example found on page 11. And I'm going to put that in quotation marks. Are those my terms? Are these my words? No. These are words that are found in the book by Sally Morgan, so I need to give her credit, put quotation marks. It says, a male bald eagle dives toward a female during a courtship. And I'm almost out of room. I'm going to try to squeeze it in here underneath. Display. Finish your quotation mark there. So I wish I had started writing up here, but I didn't realize that I was going to run out of room. So, but next to page 11, I'm going to say, next to a pic. I'm going to put that in a parentheses to show that a caption is found next to a picture. It might be found next to a graph. It might be found next to a map, something like that. But a caption always is going to be paired with a graphic source of some kind. A picture, a map, a chart, something like that. The next one is going to be a vocabulary word. So I see a vocabulary word here on page 10. And as you can see, most vocabulary words in a nonfiction text are going to be in boldface type. Maybe in your reading book, or maybe you might say, well, in my reading book, we have vocab words, and those vocab words are often in bold type too, and we find them in fairy tales. Well, yeah, if a text is purposely trying to get you to pay attention to a new word, they're going to put it in boldface type. But you're definitely going to see them in nonfiction books. And maybe they might draw your attention to it in fiction books too, if it's in like a reading textbook. So I see it says iris. I would pronounce that E-Y. So that would probably make it maybe in I sound. I'm not an expert at pronouncing that, but I'm going to call it an irie. Eagle's nests, also called iries, are made from twigs. So a vocab word here, I'm going to write it down, E-Y-R-I-E-S. Iries is the official word for an eagle nest of twigs. So there's an example of a new vocabulary word. Do you see that we see eagle's nest and then behind it also called iris? We know that that is the definition, a synonym for the eagle nest. It's the name of it. A subheading. Okay. So I'm going to flip through here and I see my main heading, my main title of this text is eagles. That's my topic. Everything's going to be about eagles in here. But I see a subheading of laying eggs. So everything on these pages are going to be about laying eggs. And then there's even a smaller subheading paragraph for eagle enemies. So maybe these are some enemies for eagle eggs. But laying eggs would be a good subheading. So in the book entitled Eagles, which I'm underlining because it's the name of the text, a subheading found on page 12, is laying eggs. And subheadings oftentimes I think are in quotation marks, so I'm going to put that there. Oh, I forgot to write down where iris are found. That was on page 10. Put that in parentheses. So page 12, put that in parentheses. My subheading is laying eggs, which means this is what's going to be found on these pages. It's the topic for this part. Subheading, also called a subtopic. Both mean, a subtitle. So a subheading and a subtitle, same thing. Synonym words, you can use either. The next one is glossary. Well, glossary is found in the back of a text. Not all nonfiction books have a glossary. Many do. So if you're looking for a glossary, if you are interested to see if your book has one, flip to the back and see. And this one does. A glossary is a mini dictionary for your book. These are going to be your bold-faced vocab words. It's another place to show definitions. So not only will the definitions using context clues be in your text, the actual definitions are going to be found back here in your glossary also. So your glossary here is found on page 31. And I'm going to give an example of a glossary term. So it is and I'm going to put mini dictionary here. So I remember what a glossary is if I don't remember. This paper you can keep. Use it as something. Maybe you're given an assignment here in the next couple of weeks on text features. You can use this if you need it. So glossary, we know it's a mini dictionary. And I see habitat, a place where an animal lives. A glossary is also going to be found in alphabetical order. So it's a mini dictionary. It's going to be in ABC order to help you find those words. And then I see an example is habitat, which is a place where animals, not just animals, but we could say animals and plants. Animals and plants live is the habitat. So I know living here in the Louisville, Kentucky area here in very far southern Indiana. Our habitat is known as the deciduous forest, meaning we have lots and lots of trees here. And even though you might say, well, my neighborhood here isn't a forest, or I don't live in a forest, but because there are so many wooded areas here, the habitat is technically the deciduous forest. And we see animals that are native to a deciduous forest here in the United States here. We see certain snakes, we see raccoons, we see squirrels, we see white-tailed deer, we see skunks, opossums, which we sometimes call possums in our area. So lots of those animals are going to be native to this habitat. Okay, the next one I have an index. An index is also going to be found in ABC order. And it shows where you can go in the book to learn certain vocab words. So it gives vocab word page numbers. So that's the difference between a glossary and an index. A glossary is an ABC order, and it actually gives definitions. An index, our index is found on page 32. So look at the difference in that. So our index, it gives more vocabulary words. So it gives not only vocab words, but maybe words that would probably be found as maybe words you know as prior knowledge, but have things to do with eagles. It tells you what page to go to or pages to go to read about those terms. Do you see the difference? One gives definitions. This says, hey, go to these pages and you will learn about these words. So I see here for chicks. Chicks, we can read on page 5, 12-13. That means that the word chicks is found on both 12 and 13. 14 and 15, 27, and 30. So it just gives numbers. That means you can go, if you're looking for the word chicks or information, maybe you're going to write a report and you need information on baby eagles, which I think are also called eaglets. So the chicks, the ones in the nest, I'm going to look at pages 5, 12, 13, 14, 15, and then again on 27 and 30. I can read those pages to get information on chicks. And the last thing is a sidebar. And a sidebar, I already told you, is going to be information that is not quite a paragraph. It's not quite a picture caption. It's a little bit bigger. It is usually found on the side of a text. It could be on one of the sides here, or it could be on the top or the bottom, or the top or the bottom. So here is a good sidebar. And it says, young chicks are unable to control their body temperature. They depend on their mother to keep them warm and sheltered from the rain and sun. So that means, here's another fast fact. Maybe it goes, look, laying eggs. It goes with young eaglets, young chicks. But it didn't really fit in any of these paragraphs. So, hey, here's an extra fact. Maybe you didn't know that young eagle chicks can't control their body temperature. So now you do. Put that in your prior knowledge. That's what a sidebar is. It kind of is a little offshoot of information. So I'm going to put an offshoot I'm going to put that in quotation marks, meaning it's like a different term for it's a little added information, an offshoot of info on a topic. So my example here is on page 13. Put that in parentheses. And then I'm not going to write this entire sidebar. I think I showed you before how to use ellipses or ellipses. And that says I'm going to write the first couple words, ... And then that means there's more words here. And then I'm going to write the last couple words to show that it closes. So here's some words. There's more words in the middle. And then here are my closing words. So I'm going to put this in quotation marks because these are her words. It says young chicks. Up right here, page 13. Was that one of the places in our index that we could read the word chicks? Bingo. Young chicks, ... And then I'm going to end it with rain and sun. Period. Close the quotation mark. Young chicks, there's my beginning, ... means there's a whole lot more info here. And then end it with rain and sun, period, in the quotation. So that is a sidebar. I hope maybe this has given you some more information. But of course, I looked at some pages in here. Usually I read to you and then I do an activity. Today I did the activity because I always say we have to look at our text features before we read the text to prepare ourselves so we don't forget to accidentally look at them or we don't accidentally forget to look at them. Now I'm going to read to you to end it. So let's look at page 10. Building a nest. See if we can learn some facts about eagles. So I see a picture here. I see a male and female. It says usually the male eagle collects the twigs and the female arranges them in a nest. So he gets the materials. She builds it how she wants. It takes weeks, sometimes months to build a nest. And these are not just your typical little bird's nest. These are huge. They take up the entire, sometimes top of the tree. I've already read you this caption. It was the one next to the picture. A male bald eagle dives toward a female during a courtship display, saying, hey, come be my girlfriend. Here's a sidebar. Eagle fact, the largest known bald eagle nest was found in Florida. It was 9 feet across and 20 feet deep and weighed more than 2 tons. 1 ton is 2,000 pounds, so it weighed more than 4,000 pounds. What a humongous nest. Oh my goodness, can you imagine? I can't imagine. That's like a full house. Now I'm ready to read. Oh, building a nest. I'm not quite ready. And then courtship. So how they become girlfriends and boyfriends. Eagles build huge nests in places that are difficult to reach, such as on ledges or high in trees. Eagle nests, also called eyries, definition, are made from twigs. The inside is lined with soft grass or leaves. Eagles return to the same nest every year, adding more twigs each time. Some old nests become so big and heavy that they break the supporting branches and crash to the ground. I did not realize that. I guess they just keep adding to it, and then sometimes it gets so big that the tree can't support it anymore. Courtship. Many eagles mate for life. So humans often will mate for life whenever we get married. That is called mating for life. This means that they live with the same partner until one dies. During their courtship, the male eagle brings the female gifts of food. Some males perform a courtship display in which they dive toward the female from great heights or turn somersaults in the air, saying, woohoo, look at how amazing I am. Somebody recently on Facebook I saw witnessed, I think it was just last week in this area, was witnessing a male and female courtship flying around. Pretty neat, right? I'd love to see it. Laying eggs. Yep. Here are some. It says young eagle chicks are covered in soft feathers and they can't fly. Another picture caption here with this picture. It says, after the chicks hatch, the female stays near the nest to guard them. The male brings them food. So the female then protects, the male goes out and hunts. And then I already read this eagle fact, but I'll read it again since it's on this page. Young chicks are unable to control their body temperature. They depend on their mother to keep them warm and sheltered from the rain and sun. So that was the sidebar we used as our example. So I know I'm going to read about laying eggs. I know I see a vocab word, incubation, here. I'm going to see what that means. And if I don't gather it from this paragraph, I know I can come back to my glossary and see if I can get that information. And then I see eagle enemies. The female eagle lays between 1 and 3 eggs and sits on them to keep warm. This is called incubation. So I gave the definition and then the term. So incubation is when she lays eggs and sits on them to keep them warm. Mammals incubate inside mommy's bellies. So that's the difference between animals that lay egg versus mammals. Incubating inside a mommy belly or by a mommy belly on the outside when she's sitting on it. The eggs hatch after about 60 days. The egg that was laid first is the first to hatch. The older chick is larger and grabs more of the food. Often younger chicks die from starvation or are killed by the eldest chick. That's awful. At least one of the chicks usually survives. So the biggest chick says, hey, this is my nest. So the others have to fight to survive. Sometimes they do. Said oftentimes they don't, though. And then eagle enemies. Adult eagles have few enemies, but the chicks are often killed by snakes, raccoons, and other large birds. So a full-grown eagle is going to be what's known as an apex predator. It's going to be at the top of the food chain. But the chicks can be hunted. And then the last 2 pages I'm going to read here are growing up, about the chicks. So I see a picture and a picture caption here. Notice the difference. Those look like 2 different birds, doesn't it? But this caption says the young bald eagle on the right does not grow adult feathers until it's about 3 years old. So this is a bald eagle. But this is just a younger one. And what would be known as maybe an adolescent, which is a fancy word for like a teenager. Then I see another one here. Another picture caption. It says young eagles have large wing and tail feathers to help them fly. So it's still learning how to fly. It hasn't gotten its final growth feathers though. And then a sidebar. Here's some added facts maybe about young eagles. Up to 90% of all eagle chicks die before they become adults. Wow. So that means only about 10% can live. Some fall to their deaths, and many others are killed by predators or die from starvation or disease. So we learned that on the page before it, that usually there's a survival of the fittest. That's called in the animal, that's actually a term in the animal world, where the strongest chick may make the others die. But sometimes they fall, sometimes they catch a disease, sometimes they're hunted. So up to only about 10% of adult eagles or eagles will get to adulthood, and they are no longer endangered. So think about how many chicks are born. That means we have done a good job taking care of this species, thankfully. So I see growing up, and then I see changing feathers. Young eagles leave the nest when they're about 1 month old. They can't fly at this age, so they hop from the nest into branches or ledges. Then they start to make short flapping jumps. Their jumps get longer and longer, and eventually the young eagles are able to make their first short flight. Most adult eagles feed their young until they are between 3 and 5 months old. This gives young eagles plenty of time to practice flying and to learn how to hunt. And then changing feathers. Young eagles have different colored feathers from their parents. We can easily see that. Often the young eagles have light and dark brown feathers on their back and paler feathers on their front. So that's a good example of that. See, underneath their wings are pale, probably to help predators maybe not be able to see them flying around at the top when they're still learning to fly. So maybe they blend in a little bit better. with the light feathers, but on the top, they blend in with the nest. What an adaptation. My prior knowledge for adaptations just worked for this page. I was able to figure that out. Lighter feathers, I bet when they're flying, it's harder for predators to see them. But darker feathers on top, they blend in with that nest. That's what I have for today. My challenge for you, if you have a nonfiction text, make a nonfiction text feature chart to help you. You can always add to this one too if you see some other things. We only touched on 6 things today. So I will see you tomorrow for Friday. And until then, 2 little poodles. Goodbye.